If you're thinking about starting to do OMAD in order to lose weight, you may be wondering what in the world you're supposed to eat at your meal. And in today's video, that's what we're going to talk about. So in my 80-pound weight loss journey, I practiced all sorts of intermittent fasting, but the one I loved best was OMAD, 1 meal a day. The great thing about OMAD is how simple it is. It's so simple, in fact, that you can overcomplicate it. In this video, I'm going to share with you what I have learned over the course of the past 7 years when I've practiced OMAD. I haven't practiced that every single day, but it is my go-to method of eating. I would say probably 5 days out of the week these days, that's what I'm doing. And even though it feels very easy to me now, there was a learning curve involved. And I'm just going to share with you what I've learned. The main thing that helped me was to always be searching for the sweet spot. So here's what I was looking for. I wanted to feel good and full after the meal, but I didn't want to feel overly full. And then I wanted to feel good until I went to sleep. I wanted to sleep really well. And then I wanted to wake up and feel energetic and not feel too hungry during the day until I got to my next meal. And most importantly, I still wanted the scale to be moving down with all of those things in play. And what I found is you can find that sweet spot, but it does take some trial and error. What I found the most helpful was to simply keep eating all the foods I loved and to get rid of nothing. If you're dreading your OMAD, it's going to be really hard to stick to OMAD. And consistency is really the thing that will help you lose weight. So looking forward to it is important, but also feeling good during your fasting window is almost equally important. And so it's important to figure out what your body does best with. And so here's what I've found. I don't do well with a high any particular kind of macronutrient. So what I mean by that is if I just try to eat a meal that's super high protein and low fat and low carb, I am going to feel terrible the next day. I'll feel great right after the meal. I'll feel really full, but my energy levels are bad the next day. I just don't enjoy that way of eating. On the other hand, a meal that's super high carb and nothing else, so just really, really high in sugar and low fat and low protein, it's also going to be a disaster the next day. So for example, if I just have a stack of pancakes and syrup and that's it, the next day I'm going to feel nauseous and low energy, and I will have felt like I've burned through all of the energy really fast. But if instead I take those same pancakes and then I put some butter on it and I still have the syrup, but then I also have, some bacon and maybe some fried eggs. So then I've got fat, protein, and carbs all at the same meal. Then the next day I feel fine. I don't feel, jittery and things like that. So I do my best to try to get some of each thing at the meal. So some fat, some protein, and some carbs. And I really want to emphasize that everyone is different here. I've talked to plenty of people who, they say that they do much better on, high protein. And there are other people who say they do better on high carb. And I think it's just about experimentation. Find what works for you. And don't feel guilty about it, whatever you find. If at any point OMAD starts to feel difficult, then it's important to then figure out, what did you eat the day before? How much did you eat? It might be, the combinations of food is just a little bit off. And so you just need to work on that. Or it might be that you're not eating enough food so that you stay full for a longer period of time. So here are some meals that are on regular rotation in my house. The first one is spaghetti, and I make it in a very simple way. I just take boxed, noodles and boil those, drain those off, then take jarred spaghetti sauce, and then I brown some sort of meat, some sort of ground meat, like ground beef or ground turkey. It really just depends on what's on sale, what is in the budget for that week, and then brown that up and put that in the sauce with the pasta, and I'll eat that plus maybe some garlic knots or maybe a side salad. Another meal is black beans and white rice. I make both of those things in the Instant Pot. It's a great simple meal and it's very filling. I also love to make man-pleasing chicken, which is chicken thighs, either bone-in, skin on, or, boneless, skinless. It doesn't really matter. Chicken that has this sauce that has maple syrup and mustard combined. And it's really good. And I make that with roasted broccoli. And sometimes I'll have rolls or some sort of bread with that. Another meal I love is breakfast for dinner. So, having eggs and hash browns and bacon, things like that at my meal at night. I really enjoyed that because, if you practice OMAD on a regular basis, you're not getting breakfast on a regular basis usually because most people choose supper as their OMAD. So that just keeps it feeling easy for me. Basically, I have just continued to eat all the foods and the meals that my family was eating even when I was obese. And also, I don't have rules about how much of each thing I can have. So like some nights I'm going to eat, 2 or, maybe even 3 servings of spaghetti, but then, maybe like 1 garlic nut and a little bit of salad. Or it might be like a lot of salad and, less noodles and that kind of thing. The great thing about OMAD is it can be really flexible. You can really just go based on what you want. My one rule is just to simply eat until I'm full. Now, I will say that some meals can be kind of tricky, like for example, black beans and white rice. I think it has to do with how much fiber is in the black beans, but it's really hard for me to eat just the right amount because sometimes what I'll do is I'll eat and I'll think I ate just the right amount and then the next day I feel hungry. So that I know then that I did not really eat enough at the meal. But then there have been other times where I've eaten, what feels like too much. I feel kind of overly full after the meal is over, but the next day I feel like, okay, that was actually the right amount to eat. What I have found to be really helpful in those situations is to add fat to the meal. So things like mayonnaise or, cheese or butter or oil added to a meal that has a lot of fiber in it can help you get the right amount of calories so that you feel, good and full until your next meal, but you're not going to be so overly full at the meal, because there's just so much bulk. So remember, you can eat whatever you want when you're practicing OMAD. You don't have to have a lot of complicated rules. You can just eat what you like. Ultimately, the scale will let you know if you're eating the right amount of food or not. And I would encourage you during this process, just be patient with it. It's something I think that is best come to really gradually, that you don't just jump to OMAD, that you start out with just intermittent fasting and just push your window out gradually until you get to that point where OMAD feels easy. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you for watching. Also, thank you to all of you insiders out there who have become members on this channel. If you'd like access to videos that I don't post anywhere else that show the behind the scenes look at this channel, plus, what I'm eating and different things I'm experimenting with, then be sure to hit the join button below.